Business management is a huge subject, and it can be a confusing subject when you're a business owner. In this video, I'll share with you what real-world practical business management is about that when learned gets almost unbelievable results. I'll train you here on the top topics of management to help you grow your business faster or to have it operating smoother so there's also less stress on you, more cash in the bank, and more time in your week. Make sure you stay until the end for information on our special free bonus. So let's get started with who am I? My name's Tim Stokes, and for 34 years I've owned and built 5 different businesses. I've invested $120,000 in my own self-education with the top entrepreneurs, marketers, and business gurus all around the world. I was a business coaching pioneer beginning in 1997 and setting up standards and systems that are used by thousands of business coaches around the world. I've one-on-one mentored over 1,000 business owner clients. I've had success with all types of different industries from startups to $20 million revenue businesses. My values are integrity, humility, growth, and business growth. Check out my company, Profit Transformations, if you'd like to know more. There are 7 key ingredients of management that were identified by working with hundreds of business owners and listening to their everyday challenges. Each topic in this video is a huge subject of its own, and you can work on any of these at any time. However, what I discovered is that by working on them in the order they are here, magic starts to happen. The 7 key ingredients of management are, first of all, vision, which is the company's role that you envision for your business in the marketplace in the next 5 or 10 or 20 years. Team building, recruitment of positive attitude people are included in this. Measuring and figures so that you have facts to base your decisions on. Business growth planning with strategies. Systems for profitable growth. Sales and marketing. And management to leverage your time and wisdom as your business grows without dependency on you. All these topics are the total focus ingredients of the Academy of Business Mastery. These 7 steps, when applied in that order, accelerate your business growth. Like a J-curve. J-curve profit growth prevents the common cash flow ups and downs with lead generation focused growth, so they produce a better long-term outcome. Here's one of many examples of a client case study going through a J-curve growth. It was a direct sales company based in Australia. In 2013 we first met, and the revenue at the time was about $1.5 million, and it had a net profit margin in the business of 8%. The business was fairly stagnant and it hadn't gotten over that $1.5 million at that stage. In 2014, during the Academy of Business Mastery, at the end of the financial year, the revenue had hit $10 million and the net profit margin had jumped to 17%, making the business $1.7 million in net profit, more than the revenue from the year before. In 2015, the business grew to $15 million in turnover and had a net profit margin of 13%. And in 2017, a couple of years later and 4 years beyond where we worked together in the course, the revenue had jumped to $36 million. The business was operating internationally in 3 countries and the net profit margin was 11%. And the owner of this business said to me, "I doubt I would have been in business, let alone made what we did, thanks to your business and management training." Now, let's begin your business management training with step 1, vision. What do you want your business to look like in 5 or 10 years? That's the most important question. What do you want your life or role in the business to be in those 5 or 10 years as well? How many employees do you envision having? Often it's hard to get our head around a figure for our turnover or our growth. However, if you look at it in terms of number of employees, it's actually a very effective way of clarifying how big you want your business to be long term. The truth about vision is few business owners have a 20/20 crystal clear vision, and it's rarely written down. No one has told them that they can set their business up to operate smoothly and profitably without them working in it. So it's often hard to imagine something that could be your future without someone guiding you through this process of clarifying what your vision for your business is. It makes it hard to envision when you're not even aware of the possibilities. This is the first critical step of growing your business, is to be very clear of what your vision is and where you want your business to end up long term. If you answer those questions on the slide, you're well on your way to being clear of what you want to achieve as a vision for your business, and that's critical for leading your team, which is step 2. You've got to have a great team to build a great business. Training everyone achieves more, and that's what makes a team. It's very important you leverage your knowledge, your wisdom, and your time through the people that work for you. So training them is really important. It's one of the most overlooked strategies of management that there is, until you hit the big corporations. If you call your employees staff, you probably get staff or performance from them. They are valuable team members and contributors. Training them every week is super important and very beneficial to your business. Let me share a case study of this being applied. Jeffrey Van Dorn, what he said to me was, I knew my whole team could be more productive, but months of talking to them about it saw no improvement. After introducing your team meeting structure, my team suddenly became happier and more productive. They got through 50% more work in the next week and maintained that work rate. Now, if you increase your productive work by 50% while paying people the same amount of money, your profits have just increased by 50%. It was an exciting result that Jeffrey achieved, and I'd like to share what the details are of this strategy that he put in place in just 1 minute. But first, let me ask you this. Is your vision one day to be able to take more time off, to perhaps work a 4-day week, or take a 2-month holiday whenever you choose? If you want that business freedom, your team will be the ones running your business while you're out enjoying it. It's wise to start that process right now, and you can use this next strategy to begin it. Start by holding weekly team meetings. Everyone needs to speak in a team environment, and in your business, it's about their role in the business. Focus on learning and start it by leading by example. Talk about what you need to learn or could learn in your role as the business owner or manager of the business. With a happier team, which results from team meetings, you're ready to motivate them with feedback in the form of numbers, which leads us to step 3, measuring. The big benefits of measuring include the fact that it breaks through and identifies assumptions. Now, it's very easy to assume a lot of different things in a business environment, particularly as your business is growing and you're just getting busier and busier all the time. It reveals the areas of ignorance and finds big profit increasing opportunities and potential weaknesses. Now, those are the 2 things that I'd like to apply strategies to that rapidly grow any business. It reduces the cost of employees, materials, marketing, etc. When you start to measure, you start to get into the real world of what's really going on in a business instead of running those assumptions. And number 4, it leads to confidence with all decisions, with marketing, employees, pricing, margins, and more. If you made every decision with absolute confidence, what difference would it make to your business in just 1 year? To make the biggest difference to your business, there's something that I consider the most important number in all businesses. By being introduced to measuring decades ago, I started to get fascinated with this subject of measuring and numbers and figures. I looked at marketing figures, I looked at turnover figures, revenue, profits, looked at profit and loss statements of hundreds of businesses, and there was one number that stood out above all others as being supreme. This number is all about business success and long-term profitable success, not just survival. From results with many hundreds of businesses spanning over 20 years, here's what I believe is true. Profit margin is king. And when I say profit margin, I'm talking about the net profit margin. Net profit margin is a percentage of net profit on revenue after all costs, expenses, and overheads. It's the one that dictates how much cash you have in your business bank account after the income is received from each job or each sale. Factors that influence margins include the marketing acquisition costs. If you spend $1,000 on marketing and you obtain 10 clients from that $1,000, it costs you $100 per client. Lowering your acquisition costs makes you more profit at the time of acquiring that customer. that directly influences the margins you make in your business. Time on work or jobs by employees. When you start to quantify the time and the activity of your employees, you start to find inconsistencies and assumptions, and that's where you can find often big increases on margins. Pricing accuracy, markup and gross margin goals. Being really clear of what markup gives you what gross margin when you sell your services or products. Actual gross margin compared to gross margin and the difference. If you're in a quoting business where you provide quotes, written proposals, etc., the actual quoted price with its margin is often rarely the same as the actual gross margin after the work is complete. The only way to know that is to accurately measure the quoting gross margin and the actual gross margin after the time has been taken out as wages multiplied by hours out of every job or work that's carried out. And material costs. Team synergy, happiness, and attitudes directly affect margins. If you hire an employee that takes you 4 months to identify that they don't have a good attitude, and then you have to put them off and hire another person, that has directly and significantly increased the profit margin of your business. So employees make a very big difference. And I'm sure you're familiar with the saying that happy people are more productive. And if you do agree with it, my next question is, what's your happiness strategy? If happiness increases productivity, then we need to introduce some method, some strategy to increase the happiness of our employees. And that's where running a weekly team meeting achieves that exact outcome. Your leadership and teaching skills with employees. It's something that we're often not really taught. We're not really taught how to teach people, and especially employees. Often we weren't taught very well when we worked for a boss before going into business for ourselves. It's an area whereby improving your skills in this can make a dramatic difference to the happiness and satisfaction of your employees in their job. And that means they're more productive and do more without being supervised. And another factor I'll talk about here that influences margins is systems. Systems in which of the 9 areas you use them and need them for. I'll discuss what all 9 of those different areas that you need systems for a little bit later in this video. Measuring to manage your business. When you're measuring, you're starting to manage your business. So we need to think about what areas that we need to manage the business in. If you think about it, all businesses are focused on getting work, which is getting sales, you could say. For a service business, it's getting work or getting jobs, winning jobs. That needs to balance with doing the work, getting through those jobs. And it also needs to balance with being paid for the work, as in cash in. Otherwise, often there's a lot of stress for you as a business owner. If you've just undersold what you need for the week to fill up the week of your employees, you're probably feeling a bit of stress. You can track all 3 of these like a 3-legged stool as a dollar figure every week. You can look at, let's say you have a $1 million turnover business, well then you would need $20,000 in sales for the week. And hopefully you're getting through $20,000 worth of work in the week, and hopefully you've been paid $20,000 in cash for finished work in the last week. Now ideally that would create a perfect balance for your business, but that's rarely the case. So if imagine that was the ideal scenario, then the leg length of a stool, let's imagine this is a 3-legged stool, a tripod stool, then in our $1 million business, we'd want to see $20,000 in sales, $20,000 worth of work produced, and $20,000 banked or cash in the door. Now, when one of these legs is longer or shorter than the other, the business gets out of balance. And the more out of balance it is, the more stress you will probably almost certainly feel as a business owner. Leg length is just that dollar value of each leg. Now, measuring all 3, when you do this, you're starting to manage your business more effectively. And what it does by measuring all 3, it identifies early causes of workloads, which reduces your stress. It tells you if you have enough work coming up. It tells you if you're getting through too much or not enough work, and what that supply to demand balance is likely to be. By doing it this way and tracking these numbers every week, your business starts to become very predictable. And the more predictable it gets, the more in control you get, and the less stress you'll feel. Good management is all about knowing the numbers and feeding them back to the people they are relevant to, i.e. your team. Step 4, it's all about business growth, using those numbers to start to plan and strategize to grow your business. Growth comes about by using and applying strategies. Strategies for each leg are required as well. Strategies aren't just about lead generation or marketing. Selling conversion rate strategies are the most powerful for service businesses for rapid income and profit increases. Some businesses get lucky and they may double their turnover in a year with some lead generation strategy. However, I could give you dozens of examples of businesses that have grown by 20, 100, 200, 300, 500, 1,000% in months by focusing on selling conversion rate strategies. So it's very much an untapped area for growing your business. And if you're not measuring your sales conversion rates, you're probably missing out on 20 to 200% more income in your business. That's about the average that I can see as an increase with clients when we work with them by focusing on this one area. Here's some other top business growth strategies. For lead generation, I recommend get your business on Google Maps, or it's called Google My Business. If you are a Google account holder, then type in Google My Business. Verify your business's address, whether you're running a home office or not. You can be incognito so that your address isn't shown on the map. Very few people know that, but you can still register your business even with a home office and not be shown on the map and get your business on the maps. That's where a search result shows businesses on a map in a geographical location. So it's a very effective way of picking up more leads for your business, and it costs you nothing to do this. Invest in learning marketing yourself. I see too many business owners that just pay for marketing, but they don't pay to learn marketing. And because they're not learning it, they're not aware of critical ingredients that can make a massive difference to any strategy that they're paying someone else to implement for them. Conversion rates, a couple of strategies there. One is learn and master disc profiling to build deep rapport with people. I'll talk more about this a little bit later in the video. Another great way to increase conversion rates in service businesses or manufacturing businesses is simply to ask questions first. Don't just answer them when people phone or greet you face to face. A person, when they contact a business, is often very unaware of what sort of intelligent questions they need to ask. So they struggle with that. So when you start answering their questions, you're actually making it harder for them sometimes, when what they really want is help. If you go to visit a doctor, the doctor will ask you lots of questions. You're not expected to ask lots of questions. You might have a pain somewhere and you say, "Doctor, I've got a pain." They will then go into a diagnosing process to help you with that problem by asking you lots of questions. So it's the same here. When they ask a question, you just answer it with something like, "I'd love to help you with that. Do you mind if I ask you a few questions?" And then you just start asking questions. It puts you in control and you're the authority, not them. So you're the one who needs to be asking the questions to find out their buying criteria. Margins. Know your fact-based goal of gross margin for selling. Know the gross margin that you need to sell at with labor, your employee costs included as the cost of sale. Work out what that gross margin needs to be, and that's where you need to start selling at that margin, and then see if you're actually making that margin after the job is completed. And I highly recommend raising your prices, depending on your industry you're in. This is a one-on-one discussion, really. However, the majority of businesses can raise their prices 5 to 10% and get zero loss of sales, and this is especially true in service and manufacturing businesses. There's a whole lot of anxiety and worry and fear about raising prices and losing customers, and fear is false evidence appearing real. It's not a reality for a lot of businesses. It's just an assumption that if they raise prices, they'll lose a lot of sales. So that is a great margin strategy. So there's some really simple strategies to get you thinking before I move on. And if you're not familiar with some of these, then I highly recommend learning more about each of these different strategies. In my 27 years of paying to learn from some of the best people I can find in the world, I've identified there are at least 142 effective, proven strategies available to all businesses. And that's without going into really detailed SEO type strategies. I'm just talking really broad category strategies. How many strategies are you aware of, and how many are you using right now? At the very least, you have 50 available to help you to grow your business right now. It only takes 1 to 5 well-executed strategies to double your business profits. Let's look at that a little bit more in regards to what it takes to double your profits from a mindset supportive of that goal. First of all, which business situation is better? Let's say in year one we have 2 different businesses. One has a revenue of $600,000 with a net profit of $60,000 or 10% and has 5 employees. And let's take another business, similar industry, same situation, same numbers. But in year 2, as a result of different strategies, they've achieved very different outcomes. The business on the left is one that focused more on lead generation, and so the revenue has doubled in that time frame with a net profit that's gone up to $100,000, and the business has 10 employees. Now, the business on the right is one that went into a whole manner of different strategies like the 7 different ones that we're talking about in this video, and the difference was that their revenue went up from $600,000 to $800,000, but their net profit went up by $120,000 and it tripled. And they only have 1 more employee to deal with. The difference is that on the right, that business owner will be less stressed. There'll be a lot more cash in the bank. They can now fund the growth and overtake that business on the left with all that extra surplus cash, and I call it mindset or headspace that the business owner will have. They'll be less stressed. They can afford to hire another employee to free up their time and then dedicate their time to implementing marketing strategies and systems to accelerate the growth of that business. So there's a very different way of looking at it. It requires more work for the business on the right, but it's work that the business owner only has to do once for 6 to 12 months and then benefit for the rest of their life. Profit margin matters more than revenue and requires very different strategies and often no lead generation strategy implementation at all. Situation 2 on the right is actually very achievable with good management skills training, and a lot of clients have achieved that with results equal to or much better than those that you're seeing. Here's a client case study and what happened when he focused on margins. This is Milton, who owns MJ United Plumbing and Drainage. And what he said after training was, "Your training showed me exactly what to measure even though I was using SimPro for job management. My cash in the bank increased by $120,000 in the quarter after starting the training, and my business's net profit margin increased from 3 to 18% in a matter of months." And it was achieved without focusing on marketing or even talking about any form of lead generation. If Milton can achieve this outcome, I'm wondering what the potential is in your business too. That takes us to step 5, systems for profit growth. Let's begin with the systems area list. Here are the 9 different types of systems. The first one is induction systems or onboarding systems. The second is recruitment system. It's very important to have a very good recruitment system that saves you a lot of time in all that interviewing and rapidly and accurately identifies those great attitude employees that when you hire them, they hit the ground running and you're still talking about what a great attitude they have years later. Selling systems is a third one. Having a documented best way of asking those questions on the phone and face to face. By working with business owners and writing selling systems with them, we've seen massive increases in sales, like triple their turnover in 1 month as a result of that. Very, very effective when it comes to growing your business. Marketing systems. Production training systems, as in training your employees on that technical aspect of carrying out their tasks, their job. Admin accounting systems, measuring systems, HR system, human resource systems, and leadership and team building systems. All these are necessary when you build a business if you want to build a very profitable business that grows rapidly without much dependency on you. All of these systems directly affect the net profit margin of your business. There are 3 ingredients to smoothly scale your business. This is what clients are putting in place to often add hundreds of thousands of dollars to profit or multiple millions of dollars to their revenue year after year. Systems are the third ingredient of a structure that allows your business to grow and scale super fast while you work less hours. The three ingredients are to focus on team building and run those weekly team meetings. Next, introduce figures. Start talking about numbers that your team are producing. And when you do this for a month or so, I'll almost guarantee your team will start to want to talk about the word systems. Systems that need improving, systems that need creation or implementation. Measuring and talking about numbers in team meetings is what will make your team focus on the need for systems. And that's where it'll come up in conversation after you've started that process. During weekly team meetings, you just discuss the figures for each leg of the business, as I talked about, to identify where system improvements are needed. Your team just get happier and more productive by introducing this structure, and this structure is how you build this enormously powerful, strong business in the marketplace with a high profit margin. And the business with the highest profit margin wins. They weather any storm, any downsizing the industry. They're the ones that always stand strong. With that structure in place, you're now ready for sales and marketing, which is step 6, to concentrate on this area of your business. After learning marketing from the top few dozen marketers in the world since around 1992 and paying $80,000 to attend and learn dozens of courses and workshops, etc., and be personally mentored from top marketers in the country, do you want my advice? Here it is. Be prepared to invest in a real-world education. Don't just pay for marketing. Pay to learn about marketing. Marketing is one of the few things in this world that you can spend thousands of dollars on something and it's brand new and it's virtually completely ineffective. Now that happens more times than I would like to share with you. So here's the interesting thing I just want to touch on. Can you tell an effective website design in 2 seconds? Because with a bit of basic training, an hour of training, you can identify a really well-built, effective website. By effective, I mean it actually warms people up and makes them want to go to the next step and then part with money, as against visiting your website and disappearing off it. Now, if you look at the typical percentage success of the average business website, it's about 2%, maybe 5%. In other words, 2 to 5% of people that contact or visit a website actually make contact with the business and then actually buy. And buying begins at that point. In fact, it even begins before the website, but that's another story for another day. So a website can be extremely effective and really well executed, or it can look nice, but it's not actually effective, and very few people as a percentage in the marketplace can tell that difference. Website developers, if you think about it, are they really experts in marketing, or are they really experts at programming? Because to build a website requires hours and hours and hours and hours of learning coding, not necessarily learning about marketing as a subject on its own. Marketing is a completely separate subject because marketing has been going on for decades or hundreds or even thousands of years. Appearances are about marketing. So the clothes that people wear is in effect a form of marketing. It's such a massive subject. So a website developer does the coding of a website, but often those ingredients, the critical ingredients of the imagery, the text, etc., can make or break the website. Over the last 100 or 200 years, newspapers have been very good at positioning themselves as experts on advertising. They print newspaper. They're in the printing manufacture of newspapers as an industry. They're in the industry of selling advertising, and that's where they make their money. They sell advertising, make money from it, and that pays for the printing of it. But newspapers don't charge the business for the design of the advertising, so they're not really in the advertising space. They do it for free. And in business, you don't tend to get a lot of good quality when you pay nothing for it. It's the same with Yellow Pages. Yellow Pages used to design 90 to 95, 98% of all ads. By rewriting ads with clients, we knew the week that the books were being delivered because the advertising at a minimum increased by 100% and sometimes 1,000% the week that new book went out into the marketplace. There was that much difference in the result of what went into that design. So this is something that you can learn this really, really quickly from people like myself or lots of other experts in marketing that are using their own money to test things to find out what works and what doesn't. And that's critical to get that education from those experts. And if you're not paying for the education, I question how good the quality is. Training isn't expensive, but ignorance is. A poor design in a website may still cost you $3,000 or $5,000, but a really good one, a really effective website may cost you the same price, less, or even more. The difference is thousands of dollars, a couple of $1,000s, but the difference for you in sales for your business, we may be talking $20,000 to $200,000 or $500,000. A lot of people, the uninitiated, say that there's no value in spending a lot of money on a website. Yes, there are websites that people charge $10,000 or $20,000 or $50,000 or $100,000 for, and I don't see the value in most of those either because there's not much marketing nous going into that design. Websites don't have to be expensive, but education is ignorance, and ignorance is unbelievably expensive in business. A great website as an outcome is one where you may need to instruct the developer in design based on decades of proven facts. Here's a really simple example. Have a photo as the prominent image that people see on your homepage in that first 2 seconds showing happy people. This is just so critical. I can't emphasize this enough. If you look at Facebook, Facebook is a phenomenal success. Why? Well, look at the name, Facebook. It's faces, it's people's faces. People love looking at other people's faces. So when you put happy faces on your website, on your homepage, it can make an enormous difference because people feel relaxed. They feel like you're a people-orientated business. They feel like you want to talk to them and look at the happy people. People buy the outcome. You're just a means to an end with your business. People buy outcomes, and the outcome is they want to be happy. They want to feel like they got good value for their money. They like to spend money to get an outcome, and it's the outcome they care about. They really don't care about your business. They really don't care about you who owns it. They don't care how many years you've been in business. What they care about is that outcome. So show that outcome however you can with images of people. The other one is learn copywriting too. The first 5 or 10 words people read will either bore them, excite them, or something in between. Choose your words wisely. A headline with 3 to say 15 words is about ideal. About that many, that's great. And write words that appeal to your customer. Now, these principles cost nothing extra to put into a really effective website. So marketing doesn't cost you extra necessarily once you've learnt it. In fact, it just saves you a lot of money from burning a lot of potential leads by not executing your marketing really effectively. Let's talk about selling. Have you ever paid to enhance your selling skills? Selling is where you talk to a potential customer or client that may give you money for your business. Have you learned the exact words to use on the phone or face-to-face in potential selling situations, or the ideal tone of voice to use? That's all selling skills really are. It's just simply expression. And did you know your personality is actually annoying to 75% of all people when you're being yourself and just being natural? And in sales situations, people don't tend to buy from people that annoy them, and especially with services. If you go into a retail store, you've probably been irritated quite a number of times by the person who's potentially serving you, but you kind of put up with them because you can see the product, the value of the product, and then you buy it. Service businesses, it's completely different because you're almost buying that person. The relatability and potentially likability are critical in business. And unfortunately, because of this basic fact that there are 4 major personality types in the world, in all countries, all nationalities, and they have been around for 2,400 years, since at least that long since they first identified these 4, what it means is 1 in 4 people is just like you. The other 3 are probably nothing like you in how you communicate with the words and the tone of voice, and that can make you irritating and annoying. And it's just happening to everyone. It's just common. It's not like I'm having a go at you. This happens with pretty much everyone in selling situations. Now, there's something I'd love to share with you right now, and what I'm about to share with you is the number one best business growth strategy seen by outcomes for over 20 years with 1,000 business owners. This one strategy I'm about to show you is the best. Here it is. This is the best topic to study for selling skills in business. Second to none. This is it, number one. There's something called disc profiles, and you may or may not be familiar with it, but here's how it works. People can be more outgoing or more reserved, and if they're outgoing, they're a bit like this sprinter. They change directions really quick and accelerate and stop, and they're very agile, and that's how a lot of the people are in the world. They're more what we call the outgoing type of profile. Then you have people that are more reserved. So about half the world are the reserved type. They're more like ocean liners, slow, steady, deliberate, going one pace most of the time. Not in a hurry, not in a rush like the runners, like the outgoing people. Now, if a person is what we call outgoing, they tend to be dominant or influenced by nature. That's their profile. That's how we describe them. And the reserved people, what we call compliant or steady. And they're the more laid back, casual, not in a rush kind of people, whereas the dominant influence people they're active, their brain's sharp, they make quick decisions, etc. Compliant, steady people like to think about their decisions. They're slower to make decisions. Then you can look at people as being more task orientated or more people orientated. Now, I've got a lot of information on this I could share with you now, but this could run into hours. I won't spend hours talking about this, but if you just look at this vertical line for a second, the dominant compliant people are about half the population, the influence steady people are about half the population. Straight away you have a dilemma. In a sales situation, the dominant compliant people don't like friendly salespeople when they're being customers. When they're buying, they don't like these gushy, friendly salespeople that talk about stuff that's completely irrelevant. They get upset by them, they get annoyed by them, and they don't like buying from them. So in sales, they do exactly the same thing. They're not friendly, they're direct, they're a little bit blunt, because that's what they love when they're customers. So they sell how they like to be customers. And it's exactly the same with the influence steady people. They like to engage people. They like to like people. In fact, they have a rule. If they don't like someone, they can't buy from them. It's against their rule. They don't break their own rules. They'll drive out of their way to go and buy from someone they like instead of buying from someone who irritates them that they don't like. That's the rule. Now, the dominant compliant people don't know this rule, which means that they don't bother being friendly to influence steady people, and influence steady people can't buy from dominant compliant people because they get irritated by them. And influence steady people, because they like being friendly and like being talkative as customers, and they like to have chats with potential salespeople if they're friendly, that's exactly how they sell. So they sell in this really friendly way, and they're smiling and happy, which irritates half the population, which is dominant compliant, because they're like, oh no, another friendly salesperson. Oh, I can't stand these friendly salespeople. They just irritate me trying to be my friend and being happy and smiley all the time. Straight away, by looking at this line vertically, I hope you can understand how 50% of people will struggle to sell to the other 50% of their people just being themselves, without even trying anything, just being themselves by their own philosophy of how they want to be sold to when they're buying. And they copy that when they're selling to other people. Now, this is a really big subject, but by learning this, and it takes a couple of hours to really learn this, and then it takes multiple weeks once you've been introduced to it to just study it, you can see tremendous difference in your sales. I'm talking double, triple your revenue in a matter of weeks or months, because that's what we've seen with clients over the years of training them on this one subject for 20 years. This is it. This is the number one subject you can learn in business. Now, this is just for selling. I could talk a lot about it with team building. I could talk a lot about recruitment. I could talk about it from a leadership perspective. It is the number one subject you'll ever learn in business, second to none. Unfortunately, it's being commercialized, which means if you want to learn it, you go online, you find a website, and you think, disc profiling, and it'll say, learn your disc profile. And you go, cool. And next thing you're being asked for $100 or $50 or $200 to get some report that's only about you, which means you're never really learning it in the world the way the world has been set up to represent disc profiles. It's commercialized, not really taught, and there's a very big difference between the two. Bit like management. Management can be really academic and complex, or it can be really practical, simple, and makes you money. Exactly the same thing. This is something that we include in our courses, our one-day sales training, It's included in our business management training, etc. And it's something I encourage you to go and check out. You'll find a video of mine in the top 10 on YouTube. There's a couple of videos there on disc profiles, and it's just a very brief gloss over because it's such a big subject to go into. So that's the subject for another day. But I hope you've got value out of just what I've touched on here for a few minutes. And that leads us to step 7, management and leverage of your time and know-how. Leveraging your time is the first thing I'd like to talk to you about. Time is in short supply, so the critical question is, how are you leveraging your time through your employees? Key performance indicators are essential, which is specific figures for every employee. And when you introduce these specific figures, both you and they know how they have performed each and every week, and that's something that you start to discuss in team meetings over a month or two. You don't introduce all this in a rush. It's too much change too quickly, but over time, follow those 7 steps in that implementation order. You start introducing numbers over time, and you get specific about key performance indicators, and wow, magic starts to happen. Sometimes you get a little bit of resistance first introducing this, but you give it a few months and your team will be so motivated. They can't wait for team meeting day to see their numbers. It's extremely motivating. In fact, it can be so motivating, and your employees can step up and perform so well, they may even ask you not to come in to work tomorrow or the next day or next week because you're in their way of them being productive. And there's 5 stages of team building. I won't go into this video, but those 5 stages, at the 5th stage, that's exactly what starts to happen. And it takes about 7 months to get a business to that stage, but it's where you make yourself redundant by introducing these strategies because they have that much power. Your business can grow without you needing to be there all the time. In just seconds, both you and they will know how well they performed in that last week or last month, and that just saves you hours of valuable time checking up on them and seeing how they're going all the time. When you motivate people with KPIs and introduce the structure I've talked about earlier, where you have a team meeting, talk about numbers, and then talk about systems, you start to make yourself redundant, and that's how you seriously start to leverage your time. You also need to leverage your time with what I call management reports. And here's an example of a very powerful one that we give our clients in our courses. It's where we track the 3 legs: sales, production, and cash in, and start generating numbers for each of these, and then cross it over multiple weeks. So we're seeing a report over multiple weeks to see what's really going on in the business. And this report on a page is incredibly powerful because it involves all employees with one report. And you can see the trends, and that's where it has a lot of power. Not knowing these figures, when you're not tracking leads and sales as dollar figures, you're not tracking productivity in dollars and gross margins, you're not tracking cash in and overdue number of days on your overdue receivables. If you're not tracking these kind of 6 KPIs, not knowing these, it means that you tend to be blindly or potentially trusting people and assuming your employees are performing well, and you're unaware of what's really going on. A lot of clients have had some really big wake-up calls by introducing numbers, and they find some rogue employees. They find areas of untapped potential and profit increases because they weren't measuring these. You start measuring these and magic just starts to happen. Okay, we're nearly at the end. Putting all 7 topics together. When you really learn all 7 topics as I've talked about in this video, your business can experience J-curve profit growth. Clients' businesses often increase net profit margins by 5 to 20% in months, and will grow by multiple hundreds or millions in revenue a year while they work less hours. Best of all, the owners are happier because they own their business. It doesn't own them anymore. Here's an example client case study just to summarize all that. My business grew from 8 people with a revenue of 1.5 million to 26 employees with a revenue of 4.5 million 2 years later, and it's still growing fast while my time is freeing up. Chris said, I used to work 65 hours a week, and he did so for decades. Now I work a 32-hour week and recently took a 3-month overseas worry-free holiday. You're welcome to see Chris's video interview about that outcome. Look him up, see he's a real business online, white light electrical contractors, and see a bunch of other videos on the website as well, including professionals like accounting firms who've recommended their clients to our training and experienced it themselves with some great results. I promised you a bonus for staying until the end of this video, so here it is. It's the Next Level Masterclass Training. This is the free general public content. So imagine what the next level will be like. That's private. I can tell you it ramps up in quality, and yes, it's still free. Go to bit.ly/next-level-masterclass to register, or check out the world's most practical business management training at the company website profittransformations.com or .com.au. Thanks for watching, and make sure you like this video and share it with your friends, and make some comments down below if you like, because all comments are monitored. Thanks again for your time.